Total.
I have slept with 32 men.
Okay, so 32 men. Now, out of the 32 men, right? Some of these, I assume, are casual.
Yes.
You're casually hooking up with 5'5" dudes
Yes.
over the 6 foot dudes.
Because height doesn't matter to me. It does not. Like, okay, I'm being for real. Height does not matter to me. As long it's just your age. If you're younger than me, then that's my biggest pet peeve.
But you did conveniently marry someone 6'2".
It was because actually he's 6'2". He's not 6'2". He's between 6 foot to never mind. You know what?
What the hell? What just happened?
I don't know.
What the hell just happened?
Why is that important?
It's way too early to have a meltdown in this show. Okay, yeah, it's way too early for that. So back up for me.
Cheers.
Let me drink really quick.
Okay.
So I guess
I think you need to fortify yourself for this.
So no.
Yes.
The average height that I would normally date a guy is between 5'5" to 6'5". Okay, that's the that's like, but
That
that's
is
the maximum.
that's not
But
an
the
average.
It's 5'10". The average is 5'10".
Okay, that makes sense. So if the average is around 5'10",
Yes.
5'10" is much taller than you.
Yes.
Okay. So the thing is like, why don't you just want guys your own size? Because you have some kind of preference?
Because no, they got.
Because you got some kind of preference?
No, they have big. What is it? Big man, small man syndrome or something,
Like
or
tiny
big man.
dog. Why'd you look at me?
And you
for that
have.
one?
hang on. And you have some kind of preference against that, right?
No, because
Oh, small dog syndrome. Is that what you're
Yeah,
gonna
like
say?
something small dog
Then
syndrome.
and you have a preference against that.
I don't have a preference against
Then
that.
why
It's
aren't you
just
dating guys with small dog syndrome?
Because it's just their attitude.
Then you have a preference against that attitude.
Wait, can I
And so
make-
if you have a
Okay.
preference, so if you have a preference against that attitude,
Okay,
you
but
prefer
what-
to
okay.
not have it,
So-
then all you're saying, you're just making the same argument the guy is, where he's like, look, I just prefer to be with chicks that have a lower body count.
But okay, so when you're talking about preferences, like
Things I like. Just things I like. That's it.
okay, but what?
Okay, so do you like pizza?
Yeah. I like
Okay,
pizza.
what are the toppings you hate?
I don't hate any toppings.
Not one?
Not one. I could eat pizza.
Anchovies?
I could eat anchovies. Yeah. I'm
Okay, let's try it a different way. What's your favorite toppings?
My favorite topping would have to be cheese.
Okay. So you prefer
No.
your pizzas to have cheese?
Well, don't all pizzas have cheese?
No.
So you've had.
You can have a
pizza?
cheese-free pizza.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
No, I'm
but
gonna
anyway,
try.
but this
Just be
but-
sauce and
but
bread.
This is, I mean, that's what like lactose intolerant people get, right?
Oh.
Or they get fake cheese or something like this. But you have a preference for it, or some type of food. There's some type of food that you like a certain way, like a sandwich. What type of sandwich meat do you hate? Or do you love all that too? Is there just nothing you won't eat?
Because I'm an eater. I'm a Taurus.
Okay.
So you gotta understand.
Okay, well,
I like food.
okay, Taurus. What's a food you hate?
What is a mushrooms?
Okay, you hate mushrooms, so you have a preference against
I have a
mushrooms.
preference against
Now,
mushrooms.
mushrooms won't kill you to eat them, right?
No, they won't.
Yeah, I just don't like how they taste.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's a preference. It's just an I
Yeah,
like.
but
So
like-
when you're talking about relationships and guys, you're just talking about I likes, I dislike. I like this,
but
I like
that's
this, I like
just
this.
so mean to just be like.
What do you mean it's mean?
If a guy were to come up to me and like says, let's just, for example, like I said, if my body count is 32, right?
Yeah.
And there's a girl that has like maybe like what 3 to 5,
Yeah.
and then he chooses the girl that has less than me, and then I ask him, okay, why did you pick that?
It makes you
girl?
feel bad.
It does make
Yeah,
you feel
it
bad.
makes you feel bad.
Well, yeah, it makes me feel bad because it's just like.
But
well,
what is he doing that's wrong other than making you feel bad?
Well, one, my feelings. because
Yeah,
those
your
are
feelings.
one, my feelings, but also two, like.
So it's your feelings.
But also too, it's like monkey see, monkey do type thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a high body count as a man and I have a high body count as a woman, like, and we're both having, intercourse with different people, why does my body count is disregarded in your preferences?
Because you don't like it. Just like you don't like mushrooms.
But
I have a
It's
question
just
for
a- it's
Andrew
just a
though. Do you feel like
preference.
there's an actual difference? Like, could you tell someone's body count before they actually tell you? Because I feel like people lie about that
mean,
sort of
maybe
thing all
not.
the time.
Maybe not with a lot of people.
So then, like, I just am curious, like, how that preference works, other than like a societal impact. I
It's
guess.
just a revulsion. So it's like, here's an idea. Have you ever
Kinda like a
eaten?
turn-off.
Have you ever eaten dog shit?
I would not like to.
Yeah, why not?
It's a preference.
Because it's revolting.
Yeah, but I also.
But wait a second. Couldn't somebody put dog shit in a cake and you wouldn't know it?
I mean,
So you could accidentally eat dog shit.
what
That's
an
what they did in
interesting
the house.
analogy.
Wait a second. You could accidentally.
you
hang
would
on. I
taste
just want an answer. You could accidentally eat dog shit.
Yeah.
You could, and that
Dude,
would
it could
suck.
happen.
Hang on, that would suck, right? So you're saying you could be tricked because you don't know,
Yeah.
but you're still, if you knew
You'd be
that there
like,
was dog shit, you wouldn't eat the cake, would you?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, but also like I wanted to say just super quick, and then we can go back. But when you're talking about like men's height versus like women's body count, men don't have control over their height. They're just born that way. They grow, they stop growing, and then but women and men have control over their body count. So it's kind of hard to compare those two.
You have control. Wait.
You have control over it with how many people you sleep
But do you
with.
have control over the things you prefer?
No, but I that's why
Then what-
I
then I don't
checked
understand the
yes and
argument.
no on the box because I feel like is it hypocritical?
But you don't believe that people
But is it
have-
wong? No, you can't force somebody to date
There's no.
somebody.
Wait. It's not hypocrisy.
I mean, a little bit.
Not
It
even a little
is.
bit. No. Hypocrisy. People get this wrong all the. I don't know
What- so
why.
what- so if-
but what hypocrisy is I'm advocating for a thing of which I'm guilty, right? While telling you, right, the person that you cannot
like
do
he
said.
just-
Hang on. So if you were to say you having a body count is wrong, even though I have the same body count, right? But that's not wrong. That would be hypocrisy. Me saying, though, I have a high body count and prefer women with a lesser body count is not hypocrisy.
Okay.
Hypocrisy
But do you prefer
would
it
be
because you think it's revolting?
Yeah, so imagine it this way.
But you don't think yourself is revolting.
Yeah, hang on. Imagine it this way. Let's say there's a fat person on a treadmill. They know they're fat. They know they're fat, and so they're trying to lose weight, right? They're on the treadmill, and they look over at somebody else, and they say, hey, you're fat. You should lose weight. They're not a hypocrite. There's no hypocrisy there. The hypocrisy would be if they say, hey, you're fat, right? And I'm not. That would be like hypocrisy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be like condescending then?
It would be both.
That's
But people get hypocrisy wrong all the time. They think that hypocrisy is being guilty of the thing which you're condemning. That's not actually what it is. It's the belief that the thing in which you're condemning is actually fine. There's like a pretense of pretending with hypocrisy.
So technically, a man with a higher body count who prefers a woman with a low body count is a hypocritical man, and he prefers to be.
No,
Wait,
he's
no,
not
but what's
hypocritical.
interesting
Just
though?
explain.
He's not a hypocrite. There's no hypocrisy.
We're not going to get anywhere with this line of questioning, but I do wonder. I feel
do you
like
know?
Because we've been talking about the same thing for 10 minutes, but I'm not the host, so who am I? However, I
It's been
am
a good
curious.
conversation. You're wrecking
I am
it.
curious.
You're wrecking the whole conversation.
Do you, I'm sorry.
Go
Forgive
ahead,
me.
go ahead.
But I am curious because I feel like you don't often see that perspective coming from women, of women with high body counts saying, I want a man with a lower body count. So I just am curious why you think that is.
Oh, it's actually really simple. So, the idea of paternity is something which men only recently could be assured of. So the idea that I know that the kid that you have is mine, we can now know, but that's a very new technology. Before that, how could you know if the child was yours?
So then would that only apply to situations where you're trying to like date someone to marry? It wouldn't apply to like a normal hookup? You might
Well,
like
no, that's all new tech. These are all new technologies.
Okay.
So here's the idea. The idea is if you were sleeping with a woman before she's your wife, or even she's not your wife, how could you assure paternity absent a paternity test?
by having, I guess, her only sleep with one person.
Only
but that
one
implies
person.
that you're having a child with every woman you
So
sleep
hang on.
with.
So this would imply that there could be a revulsion mechanism.
Oh, okay.
A revulsion mechanism around the idea that if a woman is promiscuous, that you could not be assured paternity, and so there's an internal revulsion which happens.
Okay. So you're saying it's kind of passed down.
what
You
if
think like
there's, like, a
it's
genetic-
generational.
Well, I think it's biological.
Okay.
It's a biological way to create an assurance for paternity.
Interesting.
So I have a question. So basically, like, what do you think about if a girl is like let's say she's like 40 or 50 and like she wants to remarry and a guy cares, or like let's just say she's 35, she's been with 6 people, but she's had 6 boyfriends.
Sure.
She's been in 6 relationships where she wanted to get married. Maybe a guy cheated on her. Maybe they weren't compatible. Like, but she wasn't promiscuous. Then what is that difference than someone who's 3 or 2?
Well, so it's interesting because like these red pillars, these are like online red pillars who everybody hates. They're like, yeah, call everybody whores, and they actually really don't. They actually try to dive into exactly these ideas. So the idea, let's say you had a woman who had elongated relationships. Maybe she only had 2 or 3, right? And they were long-term relationships. Well, that would signify something completely different than a woman who's promiscuous. even if the body count's a little higher, right? So even if, let's say it's 5 and 50 years, right? That's one partner per 10 years.
Right.
That's going to be a way different story than, well, not to pick on you, right? But, 50 or 60 partners in a year. That's going to signify a promiscuity issue, right?
And that's also like dangerous to like our bodies. Like I feel like to an extent you should care who you're sleeping with and how many people they're sleeping with. And I think that you can change your mind, and maybe that's okay if men do want to change their mind. Like I think that
and they do.
Yeah.
And the thing is like this happens. It's not like there's not porn stars out there who don't get
like
Mr.
judging.
Wonderful. They do. Some of them do, but mostly they don't.
Yeah.
And also the idea here is that men do find it. They do find it repugnant. They do find it repulsive. Where you think that it's a double standard, that could be true. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Society does judge promiscuous men differently than promiscuous women, but that's because of women.
Yeah.
Women judge them differently than men do too.
That's so true.
Yeah,
Oh
women
my
judge
God.
each other more than
But
any man
think
ever
about
will.
this. But think about why
Last
that.
podcast, I
but
felt
think
really
about
judged.
why that would be. Why that would be the case. It's because you're always assured paternity. Like
Right.
you always know who the baby's dad's going to be. They don't know.
Wait.
So it's not as built in for you to have that revulsion.
I just meant more so like if it's just down to a number, right? Like saying 3 versus like 10. Like if it was you're again 35 and you've been in 10 relationships, where I feel like there should be some kind
sure,
of like.
But every situation is going to be different. When you ask for like a hard cutoff, I don't even think we need to give one. Just make it easy, right?
Right.
Everything after 1 is worse than 1. Everything after 0 is worse than 0. It's pretty simple, right? So it's like, well, what's the cutoff? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5?
Right.
Who gives a shit? Ultimately, everything after 0 is worse than 0. Everything after 1 is worse than 1. Everything after 2 is worse than 2, right? You only really need to think of it that way. What other way do we even need to think of it?
Don't think of it.
Yeah, but the thing is like men do think of it.
Well, and it also matters because, like, if you're someone who's had, like, relations with a lot of people, like, and I don't know, maybe you're someone who doesn't get tested regularly or something, and you get with some other person, they could contract something. You don't want someone who's been sleeping around with a bunch of people who you don't know where they've been.
See, the only problem I kind of take with this, you're right, don't get me wrong, totally right. It's just that it comes from a female perspective. So you kind of think about things from the perspective of women.
Well, I am a woman, so that would make sense.
Sure. But what I'm saying is, my challenge is to say to you, instead take yourself out of the female perspective, put yourself in the male perspective, right? You will always be assured of paternity. You always know it's your kid. You will always know that. We don't have that luxury, right? At least historically, we never did. Only right now do we have that luxury.
Well,
and
and
women,
it's
women, in
expensive.
fact, beat men up for asking to get a paternity test, even though they themselves have absolute knowledge, right?
Wouldn't it be more
and
of
it's like so look at it from the perspective of the man for a second.
I
Wouldn't
actually
it
have
be
a friend who's
moral
going
thing,
through that
though?
right now.
Like, wouldn't like I just to challenge it, like, it doesn't come down to like if you're like a slut, like or not, like if you're sleeping around and you wouldn't know versus you're only with that person and you're exclusive and you haven't been with someone since your last relationship. I mean, just in my personal, I guess, views are that it's just different, like that. I feel like.
But are you relaying those views to you personally? Because this is has something to do with your own personal situation. Are you?
Maybe a little bit, but
Little
I
bit?
think that like
isn't it interesting, right? It's like,
Right.
think of the question here, though. Take yourself out, put yourself in the man's shoes. Instead, relays right back to me, my own personal situation. Then I'll relay it back to the man. It's like, forget all that. Just create a blank slate for a second, right? Tomorrow you wake up and you're a male, right? Let's look at it from men's perspectives now. If you sleep with a woman, how are you assured paternity? How are you assured that the child is yours? What would be the signs you would look for?
That would frustrate me.
yeah, it's hard to think about that.
Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, super hard to think about, right?
Because as a woman, all I would say is like, oh, well, just don't sleep with a bunch of women.
Right,
or don't-
exactly.
Just use a condom,
you would just say,
so, yeah.
well, don't sleep with a bunch of
Right.
women or a bunch of men, and then and then there's no
Yeah.
problem. And that's exactly what men say. They say the same thing. They're like, hey, just don't sleep with a bunch of men.
Yeah.
Problem solved.